is your favorite B-Boy show.
Servus, grüezi und grüß euch. Welcome not to the best, not your favorite podcast with your favorite B-Boy host and my guest this time, legendary B-Boy all the way from California, representing Soul Control and Ill Ability Screws. Please make some noise for legendary B-Boy Kujo. What's up, brother?
What's up, brother?
Hey, it's an honor for me to have you on my platform on Godfather TV. I'm so happy I can connect with all the legends I used to look up when I started dancing, and you're definitely one of them. So it's really an honor and a pleasure to have you here at your favorite people show. So, of course, some housekeeping. Uh, don't forget to subscribe. Yes, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Give us a thumbs up and comment which guest you want to see next at Godfather TV. Yes, your favorite people show. Yeah. But now let's get right into it. I started dancing in 2000, so I know you over 23 years ago.
Wow.
20 years, yes, 20 years long. And first time personally, I met you in May in France. Oh, in April. It was in April in France in the FICE competition.
That's what it was. I thought so. I was
Yes,
trying
yes,
to
yes.
remember, and that's what I thought I remembered.
Yes,
Yep.
you've been to many countries, I guess, this year, so it's a little hard for you, I guess.
It can be, but no, I was trying to remember before we jumped on today. I was trying to remember where did I last see him? I think it was France, but
Yeah.
which event in France? Because I
Yes,
was
yes, yes.
one time this year.
Yes, yes, yes.
But that was the one
And
I thought. So
and it was
I'm glad.
so and it was so cool for me to get to know you and talk with you not only about dancing but just life in general. So it's always nice when you see your idols and they turn out to be cool and not like I don't know, like dicks or assholes or anything like that.
I
So
appreciate
it was really cool to get to know you. So, but please, I of course I did some research. I saw read stuff about you, but we want to hear it from yourself. You started in the 90s, right?
1992, May
1992.
27th, 1992.
1990. How old have you been there? 15, right?
I was 15 at the time, yeah.
15 years. So you remember the first time you got in contact with hip hop culture or breaking? What was that? Was it a movie? Was it a move? Tell us about it, please.
Early 80s when it became a fad. I was part of the fad, but I was so young that I didn't know what I was doing. So I tried to moonwalk, I tried to backspin. I even did a little breakdance competition when I was in elementary school, and I got a second place trophy. My mother still has it. I don't remember doing the competition. I don't remember anything about it, but it happened. My mom has proof. But I don't consider that the beginning of my career because there was no mentoring, no crew, no, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't part of any culture. It was something that kids did or at least tried to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
tried to because everybody else was trying
Mm-hmm.
it and it didn't go anywhere. So that might have been anywhere between 83 to 85. I don't
Mm.
know exactly, okay, because I just don't remember it. Not really, a very, very vague
Yes,
memories of
yes,
it.
yes, yes.
But in 1992, I did start to dance again. And while backing up, because you mentioned hip hop culture and hip hop music as well. So middle school, which would have been 88, 89, 90, that would have been when I took an interest in hip hop music. Those are the years when you're trying to figure out who you want to be as
I
a
see
young man
it.
or a young woman. So I was listening to lots of different music and just getting curious about lots of different cultures. So hip hop was one of them, but also heavy metal, punk rock. I was very much into those sorts of things, counterculture music, kind of. And I had a lot of interest in both, but I couldn't really decide which one I wanted to be part of, so to speak, right? You don't really have
Mm-hmm.
to be part of one or listen to one music, but I kind of thought you did at the time. That was just a misconception of a young man, very young
Yes,
man.
yes.
And so some of the first hip hop music I listened to was Digital Underground, the Humpty Dance, that kind of thing.
Nice.
The first hip hop song I ever memorized from beginning to end it was harder to get the lyrics back then. You couldn't just go on the internet and look up what the lyrics were. You had to buy the cassette and hope that the lyrics were
Yes,
printed
yes.
in the paper that came with the cassette, right? That kind of thing. So I did that. I memorized that song, and it was silly, but it was a lot of fun. There was some others. Pump Up the Jam. Who was that by? I don't know if you remember that.
A pleasure stay.
Yeah, that's the one. I can't remember the artist, but like those were like I think those were the first two hip hop songs I ever kind of fell in love with.
Nice.
And again, back and forth with that kind of music of the time and heavy metal and some punk rock and things like that. And then when I was in high school, I got really interested in the culture. And it's a very long story here that I don't know if I really want to go into because it would take the interview way over time. But long story short, I was in one high school, got kicked out, went to a new high school. At the old high school, it was a private school, so I was forced to wear a certain outfit like everyone else is.
Mhm.
And then at the high school, I was allowed to wear whatever I want. At the new high school, I chose to wear the hip hop clothing of the time,
Nice.
uh, which was a brand called Cross Colors. And
Okay.
it made a little bit of a resurgence. You see it here and there. Lately, I saw somebody wearing a Cross Colors outfit at Freestyle Session just last month. So it is making a small resurgence, but this is from the late 80s, early 90s. Very
Okay.
popular back then. A lot of just very, very colorful, very baggy, nice material, not only denim, but a lot of other materials. Sometimes I don't remember what it was actually made of, but it almost felt like suede, but it wasn't. It was kind of a suede-ish denim. I might be
Like
making,
velour.
yeah, maybe, but again, I'm not even sure if that's right. Just very hazy memories of clothes I had that it was kind of a denim or off denim. It had a lot of really fun colors, really baggy, and I really liked that kind of clothing. And
Mhm.
it fit hip hop, which was something that I was trying to get more into as I was
Yes.
becoming getting into my mid-teens, right?
Mhm.
14, 15, 16, and all that. So those were the clothes that I wore. And as I was walking down the hallway in my new high school, I see a group of like 10 guys all wearing cross colors walking right at me. And at this time in Los Angeles in the 90s, if there's a group of guys all wearing the same clothes, it only means one thing.
They're a gang.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. And
Yeah.
if they're walking towards you and looking at you, is also not a good thing, especially if you're alone.
Yeah.
You're in a hallway. There's nowhere to go. You can't just turn
Mhm.
around and go the other way because then you get chased, right? So I just had to keep walking forward and hope for the best. So when they came to me, when we finally met, I thought they were going to ask me what gang I was in. And they didn't. They asked, "Do you dance?"
Oh, nice.
And I was shocked because that's not at all what I expected. And I said, "No, but I would like to learn." And so they said, "Come on, we'll teach you." And then they never taught me anything.
Crazy.
So I had to learn by watching.
Oh, okay.
When I watched them dance and I did their moves, they decided that I was the fighter and they beat me up.
Oh,
So I learned the hard way two lessons. One is that everybody sucks. Don't trust anyone. And two is the most important aspect of hip hop dance is to be as original as possible
yes.
so that nobody calls you a fighter and beats you up.
Mhm.
That was the beginning when I was 15. So in a very short time, about a year, I tried to learn. Well, first I had to learn what to do and how to move my body, how to get stronger and more agile, and what can I do, what am I good at, what am I not good at, and things like that. So keep in mind, this was more hip hop dance than breaking at the
Mhm.
time. The hip hop dance at the time was very different. It was after the era so after breaking had died in the mid 80s, right?
Mhm.
Then you had the era of the party dancers like the Running Man or Roger Rabbit, the Cabbage
It was
Kid.
more stand up.
Yeah, it was those. It was mostly stand-up dances, but then from there it entered this freestyle era, which is generally what it's called. Freestyle means a lot of things, but when we talk about freestyle, the freestyle dance era, we mean this late 80s to early 90s period where they did a lot of stand-up dance that did not include those party dances, but did include one move here and there that was break-like. It
Okay,
would be
okay.
drop, it would be a backflip, it'd be a 90, but it wouldn't be extended floor movements. It would just be touch the floor, then come back up and stand up dance. So that was the era that I started in. And if you're familiar with the Black Eyed Peas and how they came up dancing before they were
Yes.
famous MCs, they were doing both at the same time, but
Mhm.
they were more known as dancers at first before they were known as MCs. So that was the style. And they actually got into battles with a lot of my friends in that time. It was a fun time.
Nice,
So they really blew
nice.
up, right? I wasn't in those battles, but I watched those battles. I was in the cipher watching. It
Mhm.
wasn't my group that was battling. That's why it didn't make sense for me to jump in. But it would have been a fun story if I had. Anyway, I latched on to more of the ground movement than the stand-up movement. Part of
You
that was
will,
my
were you there more talented? You had
well, I
more
was
talent?
sorry, what?
You had you more talent in doing like acrobatic stuff and
That's
stuff
part
that
of it.
takes
Yeah,
strength,
not at first, but that's part of it. It was
but it
very
came
hard.
more natural to you than the
Yeah,
stand-up.
over time it became more natural. Like
Yeah.
for example, I wasn't naturally strong on my hands and arms.
Okay.
The first time I tried to hold the turtle position, I could not. I couldn't understand the concept. It made no sense. I fell out of
Like
it.
like every beginner, right?
Yeah, yeah. But you would think that with the talent that I had for turtles and hand movements, handstand movements, things like that, that I would have taken to it more easily than I did. But no, it was very challenging. But
Mhm.
more challenging was rhythm. I didn't have a lot of rhythm, and I also couldn't hear music, at least not very well because of
Mhm.
my hearing impairment.
Mhm.
So I moved more into the acrobatic movements. I tried to get better at that, the ground movements and all that. And that did include footwork. I did learn basic top rock and footwork and freezes and certain basic power moves like swipes and windmills and of course eventually turtles. But after about a year, I started to realize that I was very good on my hands. I did have good flares for a while. I lost those in the mid 90s. I don't know what happened to them. I just I had them. I have really amazing players, and then they just came and went in a couple of years, and then I never saw them. They went bye bye.
They
So
just
I
left you.
have a flare now, but I had good flares. I had good turtles, and I had good UFOs, which are not what we called them at the time, just straight on turtles or air turtles. And then in 1994, I met a crew called 101, which is no longer really around. Some of the guys still dance privately, but it's not around to the crew anymore. And that was in Pasadena, California, part of Los Angeles County. And I had battled them at an underage club, like a all ages club, when I was probably 16 or 17. And then and we had a lot of fun battling. They never saw me, I never saw them, and it was just me against, I don't know, a few of them, and I held my own. It was actually a lot of fun. And I found them almost by accident at a community center where they were practicing. I was in college now, and they were in a community center right near my college. So I found out and I went and I saw them again. They remembered me and we started training together. I never joined their crew or was asked to join their crew, but I hung out with them quite a bit. And their teacher was a slightly older guy named Ace. He was a couple of years older than me. And it turned out he had started dancing about a year before me. He started breaking about a year before me.
Okay.
He also came up in the party dance era, like the freestyle dance era. He did a lot of party dances, and he had taught a lot of 101 how to do a lot of different things, especially with power. And he helped me to learn what we call walks. So it's the air turtle or UFO concept, but with a different hand placement. So you notice that when most people do what are known as UFOs, the arms are straight and they just sort of hop around in place, right? They don't travel anywhere. They just hop right there in a
Ah,
small
yes, yes, yes.
hit in place, right? And so with the walks, you actually travel in a circle.
Okay.
The hands are different,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So if you think about the difference between a turtle and a cricket, you stay in one place. The hand rhythm
Yes.
is a turtle, you move in a small
Yes,
circle,
yes, yes.
right? You don't stay in one place. So walks are like turtles, whereas UFOs are like crickets. That's kind of the analogy. So he taught me how to do the walk pattern, the hand walk pattern with my arms straight. And I applied that to air turtles. I applied that to what are called merry-go-rounds, where your legs are straddled and straight. Dead man's, where your legs are straight but
Yes,
together.
yes.
Sidewalks, where they're straight and together but off to one side. Guitar heroes, where one leg is bent, one leg is straight. Yodas, where both legs are bent but the knees are in between their arms.
Okay, you came up with them your own, or somebody teach them
No,
to you?
it was established already by people older
Okay.
than me. Yeah, and I learned a lot about that. So Ace had learned all of these variations, but also from people older than him,
Mm-hmm.
from Central California, Northern
Mm-hmm.
California, and also from LA, because it turned out that the creator of this technique, as far as we knew anyway, was a disabled b-boy named Handyman, who was part of LA Breakers back in the
Ah, I
80s.
see.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Handyman is most famous for being the b-boy on crutches in the movie Breaking.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. He was in Breaking too.
You've all seen him. Yeah, if you've seen that movie, you've seen Handyman.
Yes, yes, yes.
He was dancing on crutches, and then he put the crutches down and did some moves on the floor. Those moves were merry-go-rounds and that sort of movement.
I
So
see. I see. Yes.
that was like he was just floating in a circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that became the foundation for walks. So throughout the later 80s and early 90s, other people have picked up on that and
Yes.
expanded the vocabulary into Yodas, air turtles, merry-go-rounds, deadmans, and sidewalks, and some other things. Handyman definitely did a few of those on his own, in his own way, but he was disabled. His legs were very skinny, very light,
Mm. So
but
you
very,
had more upper strength?
yeah, more upper body strength because there's less weight to carry around
Yes.
in the lower
Yes.
body. So it was harder for normal bodied b-boys to do those
Mm-hmm.
moves, but a lot of them did learn. And these moves were fairly standard on the West Coast at that time in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And Ace learned from these guys, and then Ace taught me. And
Mm-hmm.
then there were a few others in California in the mid 90s at this time. This is 1994 when I met him, and up until 1996 when we started Soul Control. And it was still, not uncommon, but not as common as it was earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Then after 96, 97, and so on, just there was no one else. There
Yeah.
was me, there was Ace, and Ace
Yeah.
was very private.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ace only danced in ciphers. Ace never Ace. So Ace and 101 crew kind of fizzled. Everyone kind of went their own way, and Ace founded Master Movements crew in the chaos, the aftermath of that,
Mm-hmm.
of 101's demise. And not really
Mm-hmm.
demise, that's a bad word, a negative word. It didn't really fall apart. It's just people just went their own way. People just started doing other things, right?
Right.
And you stopped seeing people compete, 101 compete as a crew in competitions
Mm-hmm.
and ciphers and at events. And people just grew up and moved on.
Yes.
But some of those people ended up in LA Breakers. Some of those people ended up in Abstract Flavor, if you remember that crew
Abstract
from
Flavor never. But I didn't know that LA Breakers are older than Soul Control.
oh yeah, from the 80s. Yeah,
Oh,
like
crazy.
1982.
Oh, crazy. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
the original LA Breakers. Yeah, yeah. It extended into the 90s and early
Yes.
2000s. They still have members now. I don't know how active they are, how prominent they are,
Mm-hmm.
what they.
Mm-hmm.
But I just saw a fresh last month, I think, around I think
Mm-hmm.
it was the week after Freestyle Session. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they're still around. They're still doing stuff,
Yes.
but not as prominently as they used to.
Ah, I see. I
Like
see.
Abstract Flavor was one of the crews that came out of the end of 101 along with Match and Movements and some other stuff. From Abstract Flavor, people moved on to Style Elements and LA
Mm-hmm.
Breakers, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and Iron Monkey was part of Abstract Flavor. So Iron Monkey went to many crews before
Mm-hmm.
finally ending up in
Uh,
Renegades.
I wanted to ask you about you just talked about how you started in high school, then transitioned to college. A couple of years later, you started Soul Control. I want to ask, how did you guys practice? Like, because nowadays, everybody has like their own studio or they have a dance school where they started dancing, where they practice. How was it back then? Where did you guys practice?
So I'm old enough to remember when it was taboo to dance in the studio and to teach
Okay.
in. You were not allowed to teach hip hop in studios. It was considered sacrilege. It was just
Oh,
immoral. It was almost illegal, so to speak. You could not do it because it was a freestyle dance. You were not supposed to choreograph it, and you were not supposed to teach it. It was supposed to be freestyle. I remember this. This was the freestyle era, right? And
okay,
so
crazy.
in the beginning of breaking's resurgence, at least in Los Angeles in the early 90s, we held on to that. We were influenced by that idea that you don't choreograph hip hop, and therefore you don't choreograph breaking. You
Ah,
don't teach it. You don't, you learn by osmosis, by immersion, but you don't learn by copying, which again, that's how I started, right? I wasn't allowed to learn by copying. I learned that the hard way. So we practiced in wherever we could. We sometimes practice on the sidewalk or on our front lawns, on grass, at school, in the hallway, in an empty classroom, or on the school lawn on the grass. It depended on what we wanted to try. If we were going to do flips, we would do it on the grass, so it didn't hurt as much if we fell. But if we wanted to spin more, we'd be in the hallway on the nice floor, that kind of thing. But no studios, no dance studios of any kind. And then later, some friends who were a little bit more well off, they might have a garage where they could have a piece of linoleum in the garage. And we, for example, Barmack, one of the members, Barmack and Bobak were two of the co-founders of Soul Control, along with myself and Carlos, who was known as Inferno. We were the four original members of Soul Control. Barmack and Bobak were brothers, and they had this set up in their garage, their parents' house in California. It's in the valley, San Fernando Valley. And they had, a piece of carpet with a piece of linoleum on top. So again, doesn't hurt so much when we do some other moves. And that's what we spent many, many hours, almost every day, for a couple of a year, maybe two, really developing ourselves and figuring out what we wanted to do in this world and how we wanted to make the name.
Nice. What was the reason you guys started Soul Control?
So we used to be two different crews. My crew, starting in high school, was Floor Control, and over at another high school in the valley, there was a crew called Soul Swift. And there weren't a lot of crews in Los Angeles. There was 101 and Master Movements, 101 and then Master Movements. There was Goof Troop, there was Soul Swift, Floor Control, and Air Force. And we all looked up to Air Force. We looked up to the older LA Breakers, but LA Breakers didn't have a young generation at the time. There was West Coast Rock City, so Easy Rock in Asia, when there were still a couple, and Iceman and someone else whose name I'm not remembering, and some other. There were just not a lot of crews in Los Angeles. So we were trying to be strategic about who we wanted to battle. We didn't want to battle 101 because they were kind of finishing up, and we didn't want to battle Master Movements because they were our best friends. We didn't want to battle Goof Troop because we didn't think we were ready yet. We wanted to be a little bit better. So we thought Soul Swift, like they might be around our level, maybe a little better. So let's make a challenge to battle them. And so Barmack from Soul Swift found that out. A girl who was a friend of both of our crews heard me talking about it and told him. So she gave Barmack my number. This is back when we had landlines, no cell phones. And Barmack called me. Hey,
are you at home?
I heard you want to battle us, and it was really awkward. And so Barmack they had seen us at a Radiotron at one of the local events, and they said, "Well, we like the way you guys break. Why don't you just come and practice with us?" And it's like, okay, that's weird, but sure, why not? And we were like, we're gonna battle them, but they wanted to practice with them. That's weird. But we went anyway, and we had such a blast. We became such close friends, and we had similar ideas about what breaking could be, and approaching it differently from everyone else, that we just hit it off, and we decided one day, let's put the two crews together. Bobak and I. Bobak was the older of the two brothers. He and I were in private conversation, just the two of us, and I said, what if we put the two crews together? We could call it Soul Control. Soul Swift and Floor Control, right? And Bobak was like, hey, that's not a bad idea. You want to do that? And I said, yeah, why not? I'm down if you are. And he said, okay, let's go talk to the guys. Because Barmack and Carlos were inside the house watching VHS tapes. Probably Battle of the Year. And Barmack and I were alone at the garage. And so the four of us talked, and we loved the idea, and we made it happen. So it was a lot of people at the time, because Floor Control was a larger crew of maybe 10 or so people. So it was Soul Swift. There was a lot of people, but it was around the time I was 19, Bobak and I were 19, Carlos and Barmack were 15. So it was the last couple of years of high school for some of the guys. Bobak and I being a little older, early into college, and figuring out what we were going to do with our lives. So this large crew very quickly shrank to just a few core members. That ended up being around 9 or 10 people. And I don't even know if I remember all the names of the people that remained, but it was only 3 of us from Floor Control that remained. Carlos was one, and another guy named Truck, who went by Autobot, who was more of a popper and locker than a b-boy. And then the rest were people from Soul Swift, but also people that actually left other crews, like Goof Troop, the crew I mentioned earlier that we thought was better than us. A couple of people, two, was it two? I think 2 people left Goop Troop to join our crew, and that created a lot of beef. We never actually had a formal battle, but we just had beef. We just didn't like each other, and it was awkward. And then it all fizzled away eventually. And then we had a couple other people left other crews to join ours. One was Spidey, Tyrell Martinez, who was in a crew called X-Men,
Okay.
Bakersfield, Central California. And before that, Spidey was also part of Master Movements and some other crews in the Central California area. And after X-Men kind of split apart and working in Bakersfield, I don't really know. That's a whole other story. But it didn't really carry on to the level that it had in the early 90s. Bakersfield was so full of breakers in the early 90s that it was called Breakersfield.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
and
nice.
then now you don't know anybody from Bakersfield anymore.
So you had a lot of you had regular jams and competitions in
we
your
did.
area.
And so we saw each other a lot at these
Yeah.
West Coast events, lots of them in Los Angeles, mostly Radiotron. Radiotron happened 3 to 4 times a year at that time. And then you had B-Boy Summit once a year, which
Yes.
only was in San Diego before it moved up to Los Angeles. So we saw Tyrell at these events, and Tyrell ended up leaving X-Men to join our crew. And then Mega Man ended up leaving Rock Force to join our crew. And that created a big problem between Soul Control and Rock Force. They weren't either, right?
There was some heavy battles between you guys.
Sorry?
There was some crazy battles.
Yeah, there were no battles. We never actually battled, unfortunately. Fortunately or unfortunately, it just never happened. But there was a lot of beef. We might have battled. I think we did battle kind of in San Francisco. I don't even remember the name of the event. Sean, Mega Man might remember, Charles might remember. I'm not remembering clearly. I can't remember if we really battled or just kind of battled. But there was so much of that, like you might be in the same circle, 1 or 2, you might go back and forth, but it doesn't turn into
I see. Yeah.
battle that lasts. Back then, a real crew battle might last half an hour or longer. Like it was.
That's what I also wanted to ask. I ask a lot of OGs also. When did it start in competitions that the battle was over and the MC asked the judges to point the hand to the winner? When did that start?
I mean, officially, the organized competition started with Battle of the Year in Europe, but in California, officially, 1990 was the first organized competition. It was Battle of the Year, but before that, it was called you might know better than me. It had another name before it became Battle of the Year. Yeah, I don't remember.
I can't remember it now.
You'd have to ask somebody older than me, Storm or someone who was there at the first one. But Battle of the Year in 1990 was not called Battle of the Year yet. I think it was not until either 91 or 92 that they started calling it Battle of the Year. But that was the first organized competition with judges and everything in at least in California and Los Angeles. Radiotron did that, but it wasn't pointing. It was there was a panel of judges, maybe 3, typically 3 judges, and they would just go and talk with the MC privately.
Okay.
One, yeah, and then the MC would announce it. You wouldn't see any pointing of any kind.
I see. And there was not, like you said, there was not a time limit on it. It was just dance and.
It was less. Sometimes there was a time limit, but it was longer, or at least it felt longer. And sometimes there wasn't. Sometimes they stopped when people got tired.
I guess it was not organized like nowadays, like with the pre-selection and everything, and everybody knows when everybody's dancing.
There were not as many participants, and so typically, like you were lucky to have 8 participants, right? So like you might have to have a prelim to get down to it. You might have 8 participants, and that's it, or less. So that was very common. Like I know freestyle session 3, I think we only had 8 crews total. So we just started
I see.
at the quarterfinal. That's it. And so it felt like a long event, but it's really only what is that? It's seven battles, right? Something like that.
Yeah, it's really fast over when you look at it like that. It's just seven. It's just 7 battles.
Yeah, it's really just 7 battles, and that's it. But there's so much time for ciphering that it's still a long event. And a lot of the battles felt longer, but that's partly because our rounds were shorter. So it felt like we were doing 4.
Exactly.
But in reality, like still a 5-minute battle or an 8-minute battle. or
That's
something like
also
that.
I loved about the older breaking. You could just enter for 5 seconds, do a crazy combo, and it was enough. Everybody gave
Yeah,
you props, even if you crashed, but it was like a hard combination. You try it, you still get
yeah,
props, even if you
yeah,
crash it.
yeah. And now that is absolutely too short.
Or
I mean, 30 seconds is almost too short.
the whole, and if you just slip a little bit, the whole
Yeah,
run is over.
yeah. And now, and back then, everybody slipped. Everybody messed up. It was
Of
normal.
course, of course.
Everybody
It
messed
was really raw.
Yeah, yeah,
When did you
exactly.
guys when did you guys start making noise in your scene, winning competitions, making a name for yourselves? When did that start?
Locally, almost immediately. So, for
Okay.
example, when we were still floor control, there was a Radiotron in 1995 where I went out and did a lot of things that no one had ever seen before, and that was by
Mm.
design. I intended to enter this. It wasn't even a battle; it's just a cipher, and there was a battle there, and we weren't in it. It was. I think this was. I don't even remember what the main event was. Radiotron back then might have one battle that was an exhibition battle that these two crews that earned the right to
Mm-hmm.
to get to. Like one crew wins one Radiotron, another crew wins the next Radiotron, and then at the third Radiotron, those two crews go head to head. That was kind of how it worked. And you didn't even battle to win. You just showcased. You could do routines, you could do just solo after solo after solo, but there's no battle. And then
Okay.
pick the best one. And that was how that worked out. So it was at one of these events, and I don't remember. I think it might have been Renegades versus Freestyle or something like that, but it was very early on, and it was an interesting event. What I remember most is that Michael Jackson sent cameramen to the event to film us, to film everybody.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
but he wasn't there. We just heard like those are MJ's cameramen. Like the go do well, right? Yeah, go make a good impression.
No
So
pressure.
yeah, and so I went out there and I did merry-go-rounds, which are the straight leg straddle walks with the arm straight. Did merry-go-rounds up to 90 and then back down to merry-go-rounds. And no one had ever done that before. No one had ever seen that before.
Till
So this was,
now, nobody does it.
yeah. So this was back when everybody cheered really loudly for anything that was dope or hard or new. And when I did that, the whole crowd went, don't know what that was. I don't know if I should clap. Like it was a weird vibe when I
It
did it.
was shocking. It was
Yeah.
too shocking for them.
Yeah, because they don't know what to say when they see that, right? And so that was 1995. And 1996, that's when Soul Control started, and we did even more. Like we did one of these Radiotron events where like my round in the competition, I did a 90, dropped into a planche, and then went right into Dead Man's, walking to Dead Man's, and it was just very, very strong and very light back then. And I could do things nobody else could do, and it was normal for me, right? And we actually did battle Groove Troop at one of those those events. We had a really ugly battle because I was very angry. I heard one of them about us, so I went alone and called them all out, screaming at them, and it was ugly. Yeah, so we did actually battle Groove Troop in a cipher that lasted a while, but
Nice.
that was then. And that was Soul Control's first event, and we had a lot of people because it was so new. One of those people was Iron Monkey. Most people don't know that, but Iron Monkey
Mm.
was Soul Swift when we first joined.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. Iron Monkey joined, so he was already one of the guys in Soul Swift. He was a real talent. He had only been breaking for like a year, and he already had flare 90 and multiple beautiful flares. His flares look like Maurizio's. If you
He,
remember Maurizio's old flares, that's how
oh my
Iron Monkey.
God, where the hip is
So
like in the
high,
face.
almost
Yeah.
high players,
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Monkey could do that. He could learn any move in a day, or at least, or at
He
most a
was a
week.
he was a talented, strong guy, huh?
Very talented. He could have been any athlete he wanted. So he was
Yeah.
part of Swift, and then he decided when we joined, he did one event with us, which was Radiotron number 6, I think, in February 1996. And then he peaced out. Then he joined
Rhythm bugs.
multiple other crews before he finally found his home with
Mhm.
Renegades. And we had, a lot of awkward moments, but we also stayed friends throughout the years.
Nice,
So
nice, nice.
there's no beef now. We're
That's
all old.
cool. That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
But but those in those events, we blew up locally. We became known locally as one of the crews to be reckoned with in Los Angeles. Radiotron number 7 was September 1997. We battled Abstract Flavor, who I mentioned earlier. That included Stuntman, Ronnie Ruin, Frankie Flav, Cusser, You Know Me, G Wiz, probably some others I'm not remembering. And it was a 9-on-9, 10-on-10, something like that. It was a big crew, 30-minute battle. It's just that was the main event at Radiotron, right? It was in a bowling alley, like an old bowling alley where they turned got rid of the lanes. You could still see where the lanes used to be. Really, like wood, concrete. And so they laid linoleum on top of it, but it was so hot in there that the linoleum got wet. And so we started slipping. We ripped it up in the middle of the battle, just ripped it up, tore it to shreds, and then danced on the bat floor, the wood and concrete floor, because it sucked, but it was better than the linoleum.
Mhm.
And we kept battling until it was done, and we won. And it
Nice.
was controversial, but we won Radiotron. That was September. And then in November 97 was the first freestyle session, number 1. And Soul Control and Abstract Larry battled again, and they won that time. So it was just back and forth. We were always
Yes.
battling each other. And we had multiple cypher battles at clubs, at B-Boy Summit, just nonstop. We were always battling. And almost every time we saw each other, it actually got very annoying. We got really sick of each other. We got
Of
sick of
course,
it.
if you
I
always
call
see the same persons, then it's
You know what's gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
So we got tired of that, but it was a lot of fun. We have a lot of good memories with them, and there's no hard feelings whatsoever to this day, as far as I know. And so yeah, we were blowing up locally. We didn't blow up outside of LA, California, until Freestyle Session 3, after the video of Freestyle Session 3
Yeah.
came out. There was Freestyle Session 2 where I did not battle because I was injured. I had a sprained wrist, my right wrist. And also because immediately after that battle, I had to fly to Germany for Ultimate B-Boy Session 2, my first trip to Europe. And that's where I had to battle Benny, Maurizio, Karim.
Was on the stage, right? In
Stage,
Germany.
I had green pants on.
You had the green pants?
Yeah,
This is the first video I saw from you.
yeah,
What year was that?
1998.
1998. So I saw
Yeah,
it maybe 2000, beginning of 2001, I saw it. And
yeah,
of course, the legendary move from Kujo,
yeah,
90, and then you go down in planche.
yeah.
And for us, when I saw this, first of all, I thought it was fake. Because how can a human do a push-up without his legs on the floor?
Yeah.
And then my friends told me, no, this is Bboy Kujo. He's from USA. And funny fact for you, till this day, when we see somebody do a planche, we don't say he's doing a planche. We're saying he's doing a Kujo.
I've heard that. Yeah, that's amazing. I've heard
Is
that too.
many other
Yeah.
countries also say that?
Yeah, Morocco. I was told that B-boys in Morocco, many kids, young kids in Morocco at the break, they don't know who I am because they're so young. They know that this move is called a Kujo.
Yeah.
That's what they're told. And they
Yeah.
don't know who I am.
Yes,
It's
in
just funny.
Vienna,
I'm not the first person to planche. It's just
in Vienna, everybody said, "Can you do Kujo? Can you do Kujo?"
that's hilarious. Yeah. But what was funny, so I mentioned that I had a sprained wrist, right? In that battle. I was injured in that battle. So I was only doing less than half of my move. I couldn't do walks. I couldn't do a lot of combos that I had. And in that clip that you're talking about, where I did the 90 and I went down to the planche, you notice that I kind of floated like
Yeah,
this.
bro, it was crazy.
The reason, and that was an accident because what I was trying to do, I couldn't do it because of my injury, but I was trying to 90, planche, and then push back up to 90.
Yeah, but you couldn't go up because of your
I
wrist.
couldn't go up because I was injured. Yeah, it hurt too much. Yeah.
But it was enough, Kujo. It was enough. Just this movement, the roar. It was.
Yeah. But in the chronology, right before that was Freestyle Session 2, and my crew wanted to battle a crew from Japan called Kaiten Club.
Yes.
And so they battled. I chose not to because I knew I'm injured and I've got a battle like next week or 2 weeks from now. I've got to save it and not make it worse. I can't be stupid. We're not getting paid for any of this, right? So I really knew not to be stupid at that time. But that helped to put my crew on the map a little bit more. That was Mega Man's second battle with us. It was Charles Goku, his first battle with us, and they just went ballistic with power. Just Mega Man did flare, air flare, halo. No one had ever done that in a competition before. Inferno, Carlos, one of the OGs, he did windmill, elbow air flare, windmill, elbow air flare, windmill 90. Back then, nobody was doing elbow air flares, at least not in combos, right? And so on and so forth. Charles wasn't doing air flares yet. He learned air flares later that year. I can't remember if he learned air flares in 97 or 98, but just in that time frame, like he was, no, sorry, that was already early 98. That was already like February, March, April 98, somewhere around there. So if Charles knew how to air flare, he hadn't done it in a battle yet. He learned that from us.
So is there any specific reason, or you guys have something in your water? Because in LA, in this time, you guys evolved the palm of game to a whole nother level, right?
So here's what happened in the garage. We called it the battle station, Millennium Falcon battle station, because in Barmax and Bobak's garage, they had a little Star Wars sign that said Millennium Falcon battle station. So at the battle station, we had VHS tapes, right? Part of how we met was Barmac and Bobak had some VHS tapes, and I had other VHS tapes, and we wanted to trade. This was a common thing in the early 90s, early to mid 90s. And so they said, we don't have Bboy Summit 2. I do. But we have this event from Europe called Battle of the Year. And I was like, oh, I've never heard of this. That's cool. So we swapped, and they got to see all of the crazy battle between Rocksteady and Air Force crew. And then we got to see all these European B-boys. And not only that, but then we got to see that private footage that Easy Rock shot when he spent a lot of time in Europe. He went to different places around Europe, shooting on his own video camera, just people practicing. And he brought that home to the US, and it went everywhere, right? You know, bit by bit, because just people swapping tapes, making copies and swapping, making copies and swapping. So we got to see this really, you know, low quality footage of Storm, Emilio, Maurizio, Speedy, Swift-Rock, Battle Squad, right? But also second to none, Paso Sul Temple, not the family, Actual Force. Yes, the family later, but Actual Force before that. We got to see Sonny T, right? We got to see all these amazing B-boys, and we found out what all of their names were. Now, I don't remember every single one, but, you know, that was a lot of them right there. And we watched them, and they became our heroes. And we saw many things, but one of the things that we saw was the twist in the air. And we thought it was called an air track. We didn't know that that was not really what it was called, but we thought it was called an air track. In Europe, they called it an air twist. And we saw a video, for example, of people of, for example, Ibrahim would do a flare and then air track and then land, like splat, and then sort of try to roll over onto his back, almost like he was going to do a windmill. And we thought, this is the next big thing. Like, people in this video are trying it, but they're not finishing it and taking it to the next level.
And you guys already did flares, windmills, 90s, head spins, everything.
Else. All kinds of ground power, lots of walks, all these other crazy things, right? I had a lot of upper body strength. I could already do, like I said, merry-go-round, 90 merry-go-rounds.
Yes.
90 planche, 90. I could already do these crazy things with my arms. So it made sense that we have to learn this move before everyone else does, because they will. So we did everything we could to learn it, to master it, and to come up with variations of it and combinations with it. So I did a one-arm air track. I was the first person to ever do an air track off one hand, right? We did it off our elbows. This was not in the video. We came up with the concept ourselves. Now, maybe we didn't invent it. Maybe other people did it at the same time before. We don't know, because we only know what we have videos of.
Humans can have the same idea.
Exactly. Many people have the same idea at the same time. It's fine. So we are not saying we were the first to do it. We're just saying that we invented it in our own minds because we didn't see it. It occurred to us as a variation of what we were seeing, right? So maybe I wasn't the first to do a one-arm air track, but I didn't see anyone else.
Who was the first guy? Who was the first guy doing who was the first guy who could combine it into a combo, one airflare?
I don't know if it's possible to say. Maybe Paulo Nunes.
Okay.
Maybe because he was in that video also, in that footage, and he did it like how we do now, like an air flare with a little bit more rotation horizontally like this, right?
Yeah.
He did it more like that, whereas like think about Swift Rock did it just like that, but
Oh
like
no, sorry. I said it wrong. I mean from Soul Control, from you guys.
okay, sorry.
Who masters it first?
So I'm not sure if it was me or Babak.
Mm-hmm.
It was either me or Babak. So I went ham like every day until I could catch it and go to windmill. In fact, it wasn't only us alone. Someone else came to practice with us quite a bit, and his name was Ivan.
Ah, nice.
And so Ivan was already doing flare, air track, and then he would tap his feet on the floor, and then he would go to windmill. So
Okay.
he had the same thought, like, get this before everyone else does. But we practiced together a lot. He didn't live in Los Angeles. He lived up in northern or central California. I can't remember, but he lived further north. So it was a long drive for him to come down. But he would come down every once in a while, and he would come and train with us. We became friends. And he and I would kind of compete to see who could get the air track to windmill first, clean,
Yes.
without hitting the feet.
Yes.
Right? Look at old footage of him, like before Freestyle Session 1.
Yes.
Old footage for 96. Like he was doing
He's
it, but
doing like a low one, right? He's not like
later. Yeah. His air twist was low also, but his feet always hit the floor. And then he would go to windmill anyway, right?
Yeah.
When he changed his technique, we were the ones, Babak specifically was the one that said, that doesn't look like an air track. It looks more like an air flare because of the shape of his body. It looks piked and straddled like a flare, right? And so Babak was the one that came up with that term. Soul Control started differentiating between air flare and air track. And then that vocabulary got out. It got all around LA, and then everyone else started calling that move an air flare. And now it's still called an air flare. So again, I'm not saying we invented the term, but in LA, we
most certainly came from you guys.
Now that's what it's called, and so on and so forth. So that's the difference between the two moves. One is more of a spin, and the other has more of a rotation. And if you look at like Ivan as a perfect example, look at before and after, because he could do the air track to windmill, but only if his feet hit, and I got it before him. I was able to air track.
Nice.
When I practiced, he looked at me like damn you, you know. But next time I saw him, now he had the air flare, and he could go to windmill very clean. Right. And we said, okay, now he changed the technique. It's another move almost, right? So let's just let it be another move. Let's call it an air flare. That version an air flare, this version an air track, but they're both, at the time, for a little while, 96, 97, they were both valid. Like we all did both, but in different combinations, right? And eventually the air flare became the more standard one. Unless you do 1.5, then you end up, doing more of an air track.
Close it a little bit for the momentum.
Exactly. It makes sense to stay in one place instead of to spin 1.5 like this direction. That's all. Although some people could definitely do that. Now double air flare like that, right? It's crazy.
Did you master continuous airflow?
What about continuous airflow?
Did you master it also? Because in footage I never see you hit it.
No. I could do air track into air track.
But then the third one you didn't get.
No, I couldn't do 3. So the way that we look at it is that, so Charles learned how to air flare from us when he joined our crew. And then Charles brought his brother, Pablo, into our crew, his older brother. Now, Pablo taught Charles how to do power, all the ground power. And power-wise, Pablo was better at ground power than Charles. But Charles learned how to air flare first from us, because Charles spent more time with us.
Yes,
so
I see.
So then Charles went back up to Fresno, which is in Central California. It's about 3 hours north of Los Angeles. And he taught Pablo how to air flare. Remember, Pablo is extremely talented, more talented than almost anyone in terms of power. And Pablo learned in one day, Pablo learned how to do an air flare to windmill, air flare to head spin, air flare to 90, 2 air flares. One day, one practice. Yeah, that's how talented he was.
But
So
because he already had all the other power unlocked.
every power move combination you can imagine, and he could string 10 moves together. Just you could just go on for like a minute or two, just nonstop power, just amazingly beautiful, clean power. Because that was the thing in California at the time, right? It was normal to do really long, clean combos. Feet never touch the floor. No,
Yes,
no swipes, right? No back
yes, yes,
taps.
yes,
But
yes,
just
yes, yes.
really clean. Not even backspin. It was considered a basic move, right? And never more than one windmill unless you were going to do like variations like handcuffs, airplanes, nutcrackers, baby
Yes,
windmills.
always one move.
Yeah, one, right? And if you do a second one, it's just to create a little more momentum to then go to the next move, right? So the only reason you do 2 or 3 flares is because you want more momentum to go back up to 90 even faster, right? That kind of thing. Like it did a lot of things like that. So then Pablo got to battle with us at Freestyle Session 3, which was November 1998. And that's where he busted out airflare combo after airflare combo after airflare combo. And actually, let me bring it back. There was another battle in October 98 at the same venue as Freestyle Session.
Okay.
Same gym in Chula Vista, which is a little bit south of San Diego. It's like 30 minutes from the Mexican border. It's way down south in California. And it was the Fat Pounds event. Fat Pounds was a t-shirt company created by another member of Master Movements. Remember, Master Movements is Ace's crew. After 101, Master Movements is still around to this day, but just the older guys, no new members. And so this other member is named B, or Brian Bello. He's mostly a locker, but he breaks too, and a beautiful artist. So they had a t-shirt company. B had a t-shirt company called Fat Pounds, and Fat Pounds organized a couple of events in this time, in the late 90s to early 2000s. And he had this event. B organized this event at the same venue, at the Freestyle Session venue in San Diego, and they had a competition that was a 3-on-3. I think Rock Force or Rhythm Bugs. I think Rhythm Bugs won before Rhythm Bugs and Rock Force became sort of one crew. So Vietnam and Reveal and somebody else. I think they won the
Eric?
whole competition, but no, Eric was in Soul Control.
Okay.
And a bit before all that. And I don't remember who won. I just remember scattered memories of the whole thing. I know Caveman battled there, Wise 9 battled. Many other people were part of this battle, but I don't remember who. Because back then, there were real crews, and then there were crews that just made up a name on the spot. Just 3 guys joined together. That was the beginning of that like crazy mentality. So, and Monkey was part of that. Monkey was part of a lot of that, where like Monkey was always with a different group of people.
Okay, I see. Yes.
Before he found Renegades, his home in Renegades, he was always with just random configurations. Not random, like they knew each other, but just every time there was a different configuration. So even at Freestyle Session 3, where we battled Iron Monkey, it was a whole different group of people than it was the next time and the last time, right? It was always a different group. So that was very common. It wasn't only Monkey and his friends. It was all kinds of people that did that. So I don't remember who the group was, but they went against Climax, because Climax was the crew that Charles and Pablo and Eric and some others were part of in Fresno before they joined Soul Control. So they ended up being both the local crew and Soul Control, right? But they entered as Climax, and at this event in October 1998, Fat Pound's event, Pablo, I think they only had one battle. And in this battle, Pablo did Airflare 90. And remember what I said about Radio Trump, where I did the merry-go-rounds to 90 to merry-go-rounds, and everyone just went,
Everybody was speechless.
same thing when Papa did the Airflare 90. They were just like.
But this is, if you see this for the first time, it is like flying. How can this guy fly?
Yeah. It wasn't the only combo that Pablo did. He did all of the combos. I don't think he did 2 airflares yet. I think he saved that for Freestyle Session 3, which was the following month. But that was where he made his mark. Everyone that was there was like, that guy, Pop. He just did something, like he just changed the game.
So if you see when you see the evolution now with the airflare, we had a couple of years ago, we had the real one hands busting out for the first time. Then we had multiple one hands busting out. And now was the real a while ago, we saw in November in BC One World Finals, we saw the double airflare.
Yeah, a true double airflare, which is amazing. Yeah.
For you, it was already a
Don't-
true double airflare?
Sorry,
For you, it was already a true double airflare?
I think so. Yeah,
Because
I
he
think
didn't land on his hand, he landed on his elbow?
you could that's splitting hairs basically. You're like
Mhm.
it's getting too much into the weeds where like let's bring it back. Let's finish up the previous
Oh,
topic,
sorry.
right?
Yes, yes, yes.
With continuous airflare, right? We credit Pablo as being the first
Mhm.
because in freestyle session 3, he sort of did 3. He did 1, 2, kind of a third,
Mhm.
right? Now, in reality, he could do 5, 6, 7 in practice, but
But practice doesn't count.
he did it, yeah. In practice doesn't count. He did it in an international competition. It was international because Storm was there, right? It was a local competition for California-based b-boys and b-girls,
Was
but
it the
Storm
Flying Tortillas?
did it a national competition.
Yeah. It was the
What?
Flying Tortillas crew, right?
Flying tortillas, yeah. And so that was the first moment that was captured on a video that went around the world
Mhm.
where people saw, oh my God, it's possible to do more than one air flare in a row. And then Benny, Moy, a lot of other people in Texas, not only Boy, many others in Texas,
Oh my God, Texas scene was crazy.
Brazil. And so later, yes, there's pushback saying, oh, Pablo wasn't the first. Maybe, maybe not. But that video was the first video that went around the world to
Mhm.
show that this is possible. This is why I think Pablo deserves that credit,
Yeah.
even if you can prove somebody in Brazil, somebody in Texas came first. Fine, it happened. We won't deny it. But Pablo should still have that moment of glory because
Mhm.
he was the one people saw. People didn't see. Unfortunately, we didn't see the other videos, and I mean that unfortunately because I
Mhm.
think if we had seen the other videos, we would have pushed
Yeah.
even harder, even
Maybe
higher.
maybe Benny also hit multiple air flares in practice, but he didn't bust them
Again,
out on.
but this is the tricky conversation to have. But
Yes.
Benny came to train with us in Los Angeles.
Ah, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
this doesn't get talked about much, but Benny and Tough Kid came to train with us at the battle station.
Because I know a Tough Kid was in freestyle session.
Yeah,
He battled
but
there.
that was later. He was at freestyle session 4. Both of them were at freestyle session 4. I wasn't there, so I can't really talk about it. I know
But
it happened. But I
they've been to
wasn't.
the battle station.
Yeah, and they did multiple airflares there, but that was 1999 already,
Yes,
right?
after it was
We're talking
established already.
1998 and also even earlier, right? Because in 1997, I could already do 2 air tracks. 1996, I could already do 1 arm air track, right? Remember that there's a little bit of a change in
Mhm.
the terminology, right?
Mhm.
And the technique, yeah. So the air flare, as we do it now, started to form 98, later 98, 99, right? 97 with Ivan doing it like Paolo, and much
Yes.
earlier, Paolo did it the way that Paolo did it, right? But then Benny entered the conversation a little bit later in 1999 at Freestyle Session 4, but also at the event in Seattle. And that was part of Freestyle Session Seattle, which Cross did I think only 2
Mhm.
iterations of 98 and 99, if I remember
Mhm.
correctly.
Mhm.
I was at the 98 one, I was not at the 99 one.
Mhm.
But I think I think
Mhm.
I remember I was only at one of them, not both. But Benny did multiple air flares at the 99 freestyle session Seattle, if I remember correctly. Might be wrong, but that's where Benny got famous for doing multiple air flares. But that's 1999. Was he doing them earlier in practice? Maybe, but
Mhm.
he did also spend some time. I don't remember how much time, maybe a week, maybe 2, in Los Angeles, and he trained with us at
Mhm.
more than once.
Mhm.
And he saw what we were doing. He saw the combos we were doing, and
I-
he was very surprised
that
at what
helped him 100%. That helped him in his development, for sure.
yeah, yeah.
For sure.
And so he had his impact. I will not take his
Mhm.
impact away from him on the history, especially of European history of power development, airflow development, and all that.
Mhm.
But in the chronology, you have to remember that he and Tough Kid did come to visit us in Los Angeles, and they saw
Yeah,
that
this is
we
a
were
this is
doing.
an important
Yeah.
fact,
And it's
definitely.
relevant. I'm not saying that they stole our moves. That's
Mhm.
it's not saying at all, but he came and he saw what we were doing, and what we were doing included these combinations with air tracks, the beginnings of air flares. I don't remember exactly what year, what month, but I believe it was 97, probably summer 1997, somewhere around there.
Mhm.
I don't, maybe like, I don't think it was 1998. It could have been. I'm not sure because I know that Tough Kid was at one of the events in Germany that I went to. I went to Germany 3 different times in 1998, and I know that for Ultimate B-Boy Session. And at one of those Ultimate B-Boy Sessions, I think it was Ultimate B-Boy Session 3, they had a one-on-one battle separate
Was it?
from.
There was also
Tag
when Gombi.
battle.
Gombi was also there, right? Gombi also battled in
You know
1-on-1.
what? No, sorry. Let me take it back. At the first one, at Ultimate B-Boy Session 2, April 1998 was when I battled Benny, Maurizio, and Kareem, and they separately. And Benny was in that battle, but he was sick. He had the flu, so he had to back out. Maurizio took his place. Well, I remember that. But separately, there was a one-on-one battle, a tournament, and I believe Tough Kid was in that tournament, and he won. That was back when you had to go like 5 rounds each.
There was also Crazy from Switzerland.
Yeah, he was part of that event. Yeah, many people were there. New York City Breakers were there. Air Force crew was there. It was an amazing event. And then December 98, I came back with Soul Control to the same event, Ultimate B-Boy Session 3, and that's where we battled Basel City Attack from Switzerland.
Yes, this legendary
Swiss B-Boys before they, I don't know if they're both in Flying Steps, but at least Benny is Flying Steps, and that came later.
Yes, the Tough Kid didn't choose to go to Flying Steps. Only Benny chose to go.
I don't know.
I did the podcast with Tough Kid. He told me the story.
But I'm sure there's some disagreements about some of the stuff that we're talking about. Maybe they remember things differently, or I don't know. But that's the way that we remember things. We remember them very well. They were very talented. I remember seeing Tough Kid at the event in Germany that I went to, and so he may have come to visit my crew after that or before that. I'm just not sure because it's 25 years ago. You know, I really don't have a lot of clear memory, and I don't want to be wrong, but just want to admit that this is the way I remember things, and some of the things might be a little bit different, but also there are some very specific things I do remember happening. I do remember that Pablo did multiple air flares before anyone else we had ever seen has done them. And I think that gets lost because we don't have a very loud microphone, right? Only so many people will listen to me or to us, but other people have a louder microphone. They have access to more people. So if they say something that contradicts my version, they reach more people.
I hope this podcast also helps a little to spread.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. But that was the beginning, and so now, yes, that'll take it back to where you were. But
in your books,
and then now double air flares.
And in your books, Monkey King, he is the first guy who did double air flare.
Iron Monkey, you said?
Monkey King.
Yeah, I have no problem saying that. Yes, he did it to the elbow. Do we want to say that's not the real thing?
I mean, it looks unbelievable.
It was clean. The important thing is that it was clean. Right?
But
I did his foot drag to go into the next move, maybe. But so what? He landed it.
Have you seen? But for me personally, I think if Lil, if he hits it, he makes it the most beautiful. I think.
Maybe. It's very possible.
It's just my personal opinion. I like his form better.
Yeah, I like them both, and I have no problem.
And Bart also tried.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I can see it getting into the same sort of like debate and disagreement that we had between Pablo versus Benny back in the day, and I don't want to stoke any of that. I don't want to put people against each other because that's the way forward. But I do think that it can be an important topic of conversation because you could say, okay, well, his foot scraped, or he landed on his elbow. He needs to land on his hand, and it has to be without the foot scraping.
Or he has to continue doing air flare.
That challenge. Will it be someone we already know? Maybe. Maybe someone we don't know. Maybe it's one of these 8-year-olds from Japan or something.
This is another podcast.
Yeah, I know, because then we'll go off another tangent. But it's inevitable that these things are going to happen, right? And then what about the next step? Is somebody going to do 2.5?
I guess a little Amok does 2.5 elbows.
I saw, but he has to sort of run into it and then throw it.
And I guess
typical rotational power move.
I guess Monkey King needs to hit this combo in a battle. Then it's like real official. If he hits it in a battle and they win the battle.
I can't remember his name right now, but there's a kid in Japan who he's one of those guys that just practices in his room. He doesn't, from what I've seen, seems to mostly practice in his room and doesn't go to a lot of events. But there's a video that Dizzy shared on his page.
The guy was crying.
No, earlier. It was earlier this year, and this guy did a 2.5. Yeah, from
Really?
yeah. Now it's not the cleanest. He brushes his head as he goes to the floor, which is, dangerous for doing it at an event, but he did it. And it's
To,
happening.
fin to,
Conversation is happening.
to finish up the crazy kids talk, what you think about Malish 70 rounds 2000?
70? I started watching it and then I kept scrolling because it was just too many.
Kujo, 70 rounds.
Uh,
For me, the crazy part, of course, 70 is crazy. But for me, the more crazier part is he's spinning more than 1.5 minutes on his hand. Can somebody do head spin 2 minutes? With one shot, 2 minute head spin?
Unlikely. But it's interesting. It's interesting because it makes you think about the physics of it, right? He's not spinning in one place,
No,
right?
he's moving.
Traveling. I was talking to my student about this. I have a student named Emily, big girl power flow, and I can't do 90s or 2000s very well. I can't do 2000s at all, but I could, many years ago. I could knock out 2000s pretty clean, but that's the most I ever got. And I was helping her understand how it works to go from just the one shot, drill really fast and fall, to sustaining it. And I said, what has to happen is you don't just spin right here anymore.
Mhm.
Shift from here to here to here to here to here, maybe even over here to the thumb, and you just have to shift a little bit. Same thing that happens with a really long head spin. You notice people do a really long head spin, they're not spinning just right here.
Yes.
They're shifting around just a little bit.
And
So
he's
while they're
wearing a
going
glove.
to
He's
the
spinning
floor a
on
little
his
bit.
fingers too.
Yeah, like it's just maybe not the fingertips, but it's spinning just
Yes. Like
from point to point to point.
yes, and the
And yeah, that the
fingertips
fingers are
also.
dragging. The fingers are dragging on the floor. I get it. It's just like when people head spin like this, they're not spinning on the elbow is just dragging, right? So I get it. I understand the physics of it. It's not something I can do, but I can understand how it works, and it's amazing that it's happening. People have really cracked the code there. But it's also like how many is enough? Now somebody has to go to 75. Somebody has to go
I think 2024 he's gonna hit 100.
Yeah, but at the same time, why?
To explore the
I'm
limits.
not saying don't do it. I'm just saying,
And you saw Punisher. You saw Punisher. His ego. He did like 50 90s now or something.
now or
Yes, recently, like 45 or 50 90s. And
wow,
he's also like, I think he's end of 30s, beginning of
wow.
his 40s, something like this.
Yeah, because I remember Chico Punisher. How many years ago? 10, 15 years ago?
This was 2005, 6 when they came up.
Yeah.
Punisher and Chico.
So yeah, so over 15 years ago, and they were
Yeah,
already
almost 20.
maybe 20. Getting close to
Yeah.
the deal. It took that long to go from like to crack the code, right? So yeah, it's an amazing.
And he's not only doing 2000, he's doing 90s, he's doing reverse elbow spin, he's doing elbow spin, he's spinning on every part of his body.
Yeah. Some people just have a talent for that, but it's also a ton of practice because you have to understand physics at an intuitive level to be
Yes,
able
and
to.
I hear the practice sessions for these little kids are insane. They get drilled like soldiers there.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
The discipline and everything.
We were similarly driven in the 90s
Yeah,
to really do these things that have never been done before.
yeah.
So these kids had the same kind of mission and the same kind of
Yeah.
dedication.
We invited him once to our anniversary jam, like 3 years ago. And it's so funny because he's a killer in a battle, but when the battle is over, he's sitting there with his teddy, with his mom, you know.
Yeah.
But he can enter and he smokes you like crazy.
Wow.
This is so surreal. This is so surreal. Hey, brother, we're already 1 hour in. We didn't have I had so
No,
many topics to
I
talk
knew that was
with you
gonna
about.
happen.
I had so many topics with you to talk about. Of course, the Olympics, you're judging a lot of there. And I wanted to talk with you about the Battle of Bboy Master in 2000 in
Oh, yeah. 2001, yeah.
In Korea, this is also crazy, but I don't want to take too much time of yours. So I just want to finish it up with your prognose for the Olympics. Who do you think will take the W next year in the Olympics?
It's very difficult for me to even begin to speculate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you even talk about it?
That's what I'm saying, is I'm not sure. And because
So
I'm not sure, I don't know if I should.
no, no, no.
Right?
Then we
And I don't want you to cut this from the video. I just want to have this
no,
a
no.
quick conversation.
We won't. Well, I
Yeah,
want to cut it.
I'm not going to name names necessarily because, but I think it's an important thing to discuss because that's one of the differences between the Olympic pathway and every other pathway.
Mhm.
If we're talking about who might win Battle of the Year or BC1, and if I'm going to be a judge, I can talk about it all day, and there's
Yes.
no problem. Maybe some controversy, but it's sort of acceptable. We are accustomed to having a certain amount of controversy, and we know that the judges are biased because for BC1, for example, the judges tell you what they're looking for on a video before the event starts. You already know what their biases are, right?
Mhm.
In the Olympic events, we don't do this. We do the opposite of this. It's not that it's secret. That's not what I mean. It's that it's very transparent as far as what the judges are trained to look for.
Yes.
The judges don't choose what to look for. They are trained on what to look for, or I should say more specifically, what to look at.
Mhm.
And what we're looking at is everything, the totality of the round,
Mhm.
compared to the totality of the round done before or after, depending who goes first.
Mhm.
Then to look at the different criteria, which are not the typical top rock, footwork, baby freeze, or any freeze and power move, right? It's more, it's originality, it's composition, it's impact, it's musicality, it's execution, it's variety, vocabulary. There's so many other terms that we're looking at that are intended to be a little bit, they're not ambiguous, but they might seem ambiguous
Mhm.
if you're not used to talking about breaking using that terminology. And this
Yes.
is important, that you have to learn the system. Especially if English is your second language, you have to learn these words and
Mhm.
what they mean
Mhm.
in your language and make
Mhm.
sure it makes sense that you translate it in your mind. And then you have to learn to see it. And you
Mhm.
can't always see it unless you are trained. And that was part of what for example, the trivium system training was about, is we were trained to look at one quality at a time, and then
Okay.
two, and then three, and then all of
Yes.
them,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
And then from there, now you have a better picture of
Mhm.
what the dancer is doing or not doing compared to how the other dancer matches those or doesn't match those. And so here's how you can assess the quality of movement between someone like Pocket and someone like Robin from Top 9, right?
Completely different styles.
And
Completely.
now you can look at, instead of saying, okay, it's power versus style, you say,
Yes.
no, these specific qualities of movement
Mhm.
compared using a different movement vocabulary,
Mhm.
but now
Mhm.
looking at the qualities of the movement and
Mhm.
comparing who does these qualities a little bit better,
Mhm.
and then how can I assess
Mhm.
that? Can I justify that if I'm called out by either a dancer or
How
a head
can
judge?
you explain your decision,
How can
right?
you explain it,
So in
right?
my personal opinion, because for me, first dance is art, right? Of course, we have many sport aspects, all the hard stuff we do and everything. But for me, dance will always be art first. So for me, to judge art is impossible. But of course, we want to bring it to a bigger stage, and we have many years in development for the judging system. How do you think personally? How far are we with? You will never have a perfect judging system, but what do you think? How perfect is this judging
Yeah,
system right
sure.
now, and where does it needs to improve more?
So it will never be perfect. I think that the trivium is the highest level that we got to, that
Mm-hmm.
we've got to thus far with judging. We're not using the trivium right now in the Olympic event. We're using the WDSF level A system, which is sort of a variation of the trivium. There's a lot that I don't think I can discuss about why and how, because and not because of privacy or anything, secrecy, but just because I'm not 100% sure
Okay,
of
yes.
how and why the switch was
I thought
made.
that's why I
But
asked your personal opinion. What do you think?
but we started out using the trivium system, which was developed over about a decade with mostly at the impetus of the initiative of Storm and DJ Renegade, who, and people keep calling him a DJ, but he has been a dancer for many, many years, and he was quite a good b-boy at one time, and still a great teacher. But they were two of the faces of the trivia, but there were many more people involved. I don't know them all. I wasn't part of it. But when I learned it, I absolutely fell in love with it, because I realized this is what we have been waiting for. This is what we have needed all this time. So now things have shifted, but the level A system uses all the same terminology, all the same vocabulary words. It just went from 6 categories down to 5. And that shifts some of the priorities.
Okay.
So it's only valuable to have that conversation to really dive into it if you are trying to compete at the highest level in the Olympic events, which is very hard to do now because it's mostly closed off to just the few people that are qualified for either the Olympics itself or the OQS, the Olympic Qualification Series, which happens in May and June of 2024 in Budapest and Shanghai. So those people already know these two systems quite well, or they should, because they've already gotten to that level of whatever it is, the top 50 or so, approximately, for both b-boys and b-girls. And so they have a lot of experience with the system. If you're new to the process, and you're perhaps a young person trying to compete in the Youth Olympics in 2026, which is the next round, then it's worth coming back to this conversation after we have more clarity, because it's possible that for the Youth Olympics, we might not use either of those systems. Maybe there'll be a whole new system. We don't know.
So the 2026 is fixed.
We think so. Officially, yes. There are definitely some people in my country that are skeptical.
And 28 is officially off.
Officially off.
So there is no hope we can make it to 2028. And
no,
is there any discussions for 32?
32 is officially a go, but there is skepticism in my country about whether that will really happen. And the reason that there's skepticism about 2026, 2030, because there's going to be another Youth Olympics before 2032, but then also 2032 in Australia. The reason there's skepticism is because there are people who think that they're going to create a negative domino effect from the loss of LA 2028.
Okay.
It's speculation.
I mean, it's a shame. I mean, it's a shame. In the country where breaking was born, we don't do it. So
yeah. The reason I'm so supportive of the Olympic process is that it causes a drastic shift in mindset of anyone who participates in it, whether you are an athlete, a coach, a judge, a head judge, chairperson, organizer. If you are involved in any way, your perception of what is possible for breaking economically, but also physically and diplomatically, and just in terms of respect, self-respect individually, self-respect for us as a culture, respect of other cultures and sports, of how they look at us, other businesses, other industries, it changes, and it makes you want to be a better version of yourself. And it makes us collectively want to be a better version of ourselves. It makes us want to have better behaviors. It makes us want to be more judicious in terms of how we choose to behave. Like you don't call out the judges if you lose at an Olympic event. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
I'm not saying a good thing or a bad thing to call out the judges. I'm just saying you can't do it at the Olympic level because there's a certain respect that the judges have. There's a certain respect for the process. There's a certain respect for the athletes themselves. And one thing you don't want to do at that level is throw a tantrum, which is effectively, and I mean, no disrespect to anyone that's ever lost battle and felt that it was wrong, because that's a judging problem too. It's a separate conversation. But how you react, how you respond to losing can be with grace and professionalism, or childish anger and effectively tantrum. You cannot do that at the Olympic level. Someone did this year. Someone actually tried to, we have a judge showcase, which we call a hip hop celebration. At all of these Olympic events. The MCs get down, the DJs get down, the organizer gets down, anyone who actually breaks is welcome to, but who works the event, not a competitor, not a coach, but, the judges as well. We all get down and it's fun, right? It's effectively a judge showcase. And we are told that the people in charge, the IOC, et cetera, they love this. They love seeing the judges get down. So there was an athlete who interrupted the judges showcase to call out the judges at one of these events. I won't say his name, I won't say which event.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
it happened live on the Olympic channel. And he got shut down in the middle by the MCs. The MC grabbed the mic and said, no, 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 stop. Go sit down. And then the guy got suspended from all competitions.
There's always a
How
time and a place for certain things. And
this is not that time and not that place. It's
yes.
interesting. Now, whether you are for or against that, it's interesting that there is a venue where you cannot do that, but then there are many other venues where you can do that. By all means, have fun. But at the Olympic events, you cannot do that. You cannot misbehave. There are certain things you cannot do on stage.
I mean,
against the dancer. A coach cannot misbehave.
And it's just a different, if you look at it, it's just a different platform. And if you don't like it, don't go to it. Don't participate, don't support it.
It's highly professional. The judges, our phones are taken away. Not every single event, but absolutely, we cannot use our phones.
I mean, they take it serious, yes?
Yeah, it's much more serious because the stakes are higher. It's like, and your sense of pride is different, right? Like in breaking, we're all one big global community. We don't think that much about the country that we're from. Maybe sometimes we do, but it's not as big of a part of the conversation, right? We're just all family, or at least we're,
Yes.
we care about our crew and no one else. But then, like, you really start to care about your national pride. You really start to develop a sense of national pride, which is very interesting to see, especially in my country, because, the US has done a lot of things that, we're not.
And also,
Olympic as a sport, as a culture, we have a lot of pride in where hip hop comes from, because hip hop does come from the US. Right?
Yes, 100%.
It belongs to the world, but it's still.
That's why it's shocking.
Can't forget that it does come from the US. US team has a certain level of pride that's unmatched. I don't think we had that pride before it was an official Olympic sport, right? It's really amazing to see that.
This is nice to see them grow together, work together, develop connection together and everything. And what you say about the Olympics, this is so many eyes are on the Olympics. It's not like a competition from our scene where maybe in general 10,000 people see it online and everything, like millions of people will watch it. So you have to show the best part of hip hop. And I always also like to say to people, like the hip hop, the culture and everything, it came from struggle. It didn't came from beautiful things. So you can't expect also the OGs and everything, you can't expect them to be nice, like like and accept everything and every opinion and because at the beginning it was not nice. I mean, everybody was welcome, right? But it was not like a nice thing. I mean, somebody calls you out, he wants to battle you, he wants to make everybody laugh at you and everything. So, so people have to see the difference. So
in the US Federation, one of the things that we discussed quite a bit was that the most important day for the Olympics is not the day that it happens, but the day after. And the reason for that is because, as you said, potentially millions of people will see this for the first time. Many people didn't know that it existed. Many young people that went around in the 80s, right, and didn't see it blow up. And many older people will think that it died in the 80s and didn't realize that it was still going strong 40 years later.
Right? And a whole new level.
It was going to be a whole new crowd of people that are going to come to see this. Children, but also parents. And the day after the Olympics, all of these kids and their parents are going to be rushing to find out where they can learn more and do more and participate in the Youth Olympics or the next Olympics or whatever other level is possible, because obviously there's a lot more to breaking than the Olympics. This is just one high point, one pinnacle that we have. We have many pinnacles. And so now we have the opportunity to show them all of the things about hip hop and breaking that we cannot and do not show them on the Olympic platform. Now see now they can see the backyard barbecue where we just get down and have fun while drinking too much. Now we can see the park jam, the late night the late night after party where you end up battling on the concrete and
Yes,
everybody
yes, yes.
laughs about it after.
Yes,
Like now they can go and see that, but just don't. We don't do it at the Olympics, but now we
no,
open
no.
the door to a whole new population
There,
who have never
there,
been exposed to this, and then now they can choose which aspect they want to
yes,
participate at
yes,
all
yes,
these different
yes.
levels.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
There they see the finished product, what you can be if you're a complete b-boy or b-girl, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
So if
bro,
you do the path,
so
and then
bro,
that's it.
to finish up the podcast, we will do the Fave 5 real quick, and then I
Okay.
will leave you to it. So, Fave 5, like I told you, your favorite 5 things. It doesn't have to be the best. It doesn't have to be 5. It can be 4 or 6, but we want 5. So, your Fave 5 b-boys all time, if you can name 5.
I don't even know. I don't know. I mean, because I can't just choose 5. There's too many. There's just too many. I have so many favorites but favorite for different reasons, right? I have favorites who are competing in the Olympics now, which is why I don't want to mention their name, because I don't want to
Hmm?
create any perception of bias. But I also have favorites from back in the day, and some of them would surprise you, you know.
Mhm.
So I have favorite b-boys from Battle Squad, favorite b-boys from my own crew and my own city, like Los Angeles, right? I have favorite b-boys from Rocksteady crew, right? And we didn't always get along. I really didn't get along for some time. But there were still some of my favorite b-boys growing up. I have favorite b-girls. I have many favorite
Okay.
b-girls.
Okay, for you, Cujo, we will change it up. So
Okay,
you have 6 opponents.
6
And you,
opponents.
yeah, and you have to team up with 5 b-boys. Who you choose?
No, but then I can't name them because they'd all be Olympic competitors. Yeah,
Okay.
it's an impossible question, bro. It's a trap.
Okay.
It's a
No
trap for
worries.
someone who's a judge
No
because we're
worries. We
be
will
unbiased. And as
we
soon as we
will
start talking about individuals, we create bias, and yeah, it's the
okay.
trap.
No worries. We will skip the big girls too then.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry.
can we have your Fave 5 DJs?
You're asking a deaf guy to name his favorite DJs? Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Okay, another one. Your Fave 5 battle moments.
but see, that's the problem. If we're at the end of the podcast, and each of those is another podcast. But I will name one. I will
Yes.
name one. That is not the most pleasant moment, but we were just talking about it last week. How at Ultimate B-Boy Session 3, December 1998, right before Christmas, we were battling Basel City Attack in Germany, and we had no sleep, 8-hour bus ride, fresh off the plane. Like, plane landed, went to sleep in the morning, bus ride, 8 hours from North Germany to South Germany. I don't remember which city was which. Get off the bus, long event, no food, no water. Tried to sleep at the event, no luck. We are the last battle, the last event of the night. I have to wait until like midnight to finally do the battle. We are all falling. We're so tired, we're falling. We're crashing almost every round.
Ah, fuck.
And I go out and do a move that no one has ever replicated that I've seen. I call it a gray skull. Roll back, one hand, and 1.5 air check, land on my back. You've seen me do it in several battles, including Freestyle Session 3. And no one's ever done it since, not the way I did it. And when I did it, because I was so tired and hungry and thirsty and everything, my head on the floor. And I just laid there for about 3 seconds. And then Charles, thinking I should do something,
Yeah.
runs out, grabs me by the hair, and drags me off stage. tries to make it look like it's part of the act, like it's a
Yes,
routine.
yes, 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 yes,
It was
yes,
not
yes.
a routine. I was
Oh my
actually
God.
myself out, and he had to drag me off the stage. Otherwise, like they would have had to call an ambulance because I was actually
Gee,
knocked out.
you got
When
concussed?
I was well, I was actually knocked out. We didn't have to go to the hospital because when he grabbed me by the hair and pulled me off stage, it hurt so much that I woke up. And then I get to the other side and I'm like, guys, I'm done. I just got knocked out. I can't battle anymore.
Oh my
What do you think
God.
happened? 2 minutes later, I go out again. Keep battling.
Man,
All
Kujo,
time favorite. I have
respect,
other
brother.
ones that's number one.
Respect, brother. I could talk to you 3 more hours. We have so much things we could talk about. It was really an honor, and thanks again for your time. I hope we can do it in the future again.
Yeah, let's do it again
And
sometime.
because I have still some topics I need to talk with you about.
Do it.
In my heart, I need to talk with you about it.
Do
But
it.
for now, we're good. We heard a lot of great stories. Oh my God. For all the power movers out there, if you heard this podcast, you got some knowledge. Yes. For all the
Nope.
power movers, especially. So, quick shout out uh, for the viewers and listeners. Of course, follow us, subscribe now, comment what you want to see next, thumbs up. And if you want to show full support, you go to Patreon, become a patron. You can support us monthly and become part of the movement and part of the gang. And Mr. Kujo, any last words and shout outs?
I hate shout outs. There's too many people to give a shout out to. But I don't know if anyone I know is actually going to watch this, so there's no point. But
I hope
yeah,
somebody will watch it that you
yeah,
know.
I mean, guys and girls, keep doing what you're doing. There's so much to offer in this community, in this culture, in this sport. If you choose to pursue it as a sport, and if you don't, that's cool too, because there's so much to offer as a culture and as an art form in terms of both the art and the competition side of it. There's so much to do. There's so many great things you can do. You can teach, you can compete, you can be a sponsored athlete, you can be a performer in theater, you can work in commercial industry, you can save lives. It's an amazing thing. Hip hop
Endless options.
breaking saved my life, and I have been very fortunate to have been told that I was the first b-boy that some people have seen, and then that saved their lives. Breaking saved their lives too, and I happen to be a part of that, and that's a huge honor. And I hope that those people will end up intentionally or unintentionally saving the lives of other youth who might not have continued to live or thrive if they hadn't been exposed to hip hop and to breaking. So keep on keeping on.
Mr. Lyons, it was an honor. It was a pleasure. Breaking saved my life too. I hope I see you very soon in person, and I hope we do it again very soon. I wish you a wonderful day, and thank you everybody for tuning in. And that was your favorite Bboy host with your favorite Bboy show. Peace.
Peace.